So. All right, great. Well, we will go ahead and get started. And I would like to thank everybody for being here today. Welcome to our celebration of International Day of Peace. This event is inspired by the United Nations International Day of Peace, which is September 21st each year, starting in 1981. In 2001, the United Nations General Assembly unanimously voted to designate this day as a day of peace and ceasefire. This event is not affiliated with the United Nations, and instead it's co-hosted by 4 student-led psychological associations. I'm Stephanie in Lodi, Wisconsin in the United States, and I'm representing APA Division 48, which is the Society for the Study of Peace, Conflict, and Violence. I'm the division's Director of Student and Early Career Membership and a founding member of its Student Committee Working Group. Division 48's mission is to promote peace globally through peace research, peace education, and peace building activities. Peace, conflict, and violence touch everyone and exist beyond international borders. Therefore, global examination of these issues and global partnerships for building sustainable and positive peace are essential. I'm thrilled to be co-hosting this event with students representing diverse global psychological associations, including Sociedad Interamericana de Psicología, International Association of Applied Psychology, and Global Student Psychology Committee. Students from each of these organizations have helped plan today's event, and we have many wonderful co-facilitators. We have many wonderful organizations or co-facilitators representing these groups. Today we have Sailem from Colombia, Pedro from Spain, Daniel from the United States, Rita from Honduras and the US, and Maria from Macedonia and North Macedonia and Spain. Moreover, this event celebrates amazing peace-interested students who are located and doing peace work in various global environments. I would like to introduce my colleague, Sailem.
Gracias, Stephanie. Bueno, le doy la bienvenida a todos y a todas a este gran evento, el Día Internacional de la Paz. Mi nombre es Sailem Bolaño y es para mí un privilegio el poder compartir con cada uno de ustedes este espacio. El grupo de trabajo de estudiantes de la CIP, en el grupo promovemos el desarrollo de la psicología entre estudiantes de América del Norte, Central, del Sur y el Caribe a través de colaboraciones interculturales, redes estudiantiles interamericanas y la inclusión de las valiosas contribuciones de todos los estudiantes de los países de las Américas para la profesión. Uno de los retos más grandes que tenemos como seres humanos es el aprender a convivir en la diversidad, estar dispuestos a escuchar y dialogar frente al conflicto y rechazar cualquier tipo de violencia. La paz es un regalo que nos debemos los unos a los otros. Más allá de las fronteras y las diferencias, cada uno de nosotros y nosotras tenemos valiosas herramientas en nuestras manos para crear y fortalecer un mundo más pacífico. Las alianzas que hemos hecho entre estudiantes de distintas organizaciones han enriquecido estos espacios y nos han motivado a seguir contribuyendo. Hoy tenemos una agenda muy nutrida. Estaremos escuchando el valioso trabajo que han realizado nuestros ponentes desde sus saberes. También contaremos con un espacio para contactarnos y por último compartiremos un deseo de paz para celebrar este día. Entonces reitero mi agradecimiento por esta invitación y por este espacio.
Well, so hello everyone, and it is such a pleasure to be here today with all you in this thrilling event in which, as my colleagues have already said, we are commemorating something that nowadays it is as important as ever, which is the International Day of Peace. My name is Pedro Altunji, and I'm representing the International Association of Applied Psychology, the IAAP. And so, first of all, many thanks to Stephanie for inviting me to participate in this special occasion. I would like to give a very brief introduction about AIAP, which is the oldest association of applied psychology in the world, and which gather professionals in all the different fields of psychology, promoting the translation of academic research into practice through international collaboration and paying special attention to all the different, the cultural differences that make us unique, but at the same time, part of the same humankind. I'm sure that our panelists today will be an outstanding example of two things. First, the key role that psychology has in providing empirical knowledge regarding peace and conflict, vital information for understanding why clashes appear and how psychologists can help in finding solutions and developing effective prevention initiatives. And second, the importance of students and early career psychologists in this task. Usually, the opinions of these early career professionals and students are unfortunately dismissed and disregarded as they are seen as lacking experience. However, years of practice do not always imply experience, and the other way around. We must never forget that students and early career psychologists are the future, a future that they are already building today, and our panelists are a clear example of that. I feel that it is fantastic to see that we are providing through this event and the different organizations who are co-hosting it, this space, as my colleagues also were saying before, that network necessary for sharing ideas, which is the fundamental requirement for social progress. So thank you all for joining today, and please do not hesitate in sharing your questions, opinions, and an idea through our chat today, because we will address them after our panelists presentations. And I would like to welcome our next hoster, Daniel.
Thank you so much, Pedro. And thank you so much, Stephanie, for this wonderful event, and to your colleagues as well for helping host such an incredible and meaningful day for us here. And so welcome everybody to this meaningful celebration of the International Day of Peace. My name is Daniel Balva, and it is my sincere honor to extend a warm welcome on behalf of the Global Student Psychology Committee, otherwise known as the GSPC. The GSPC is a student-led organization whose members comprise psychology students from more than 30 countries across the globe and counting. The GSPC aims to promote the sustainable development of psychology as a diverse science and global profession through cross-cultural collaborations, worldwide student networks, inclusivity, and the acceptance of all countries' contributions as valuable to the field of psychology. During today's wonderful celebration of the International Day of Peace, we are excited to welcome student panelists from across the globe who will share their experiences as to how they are contributing to peace within their respective countries and within the profession at large. Students are the future of psychology, and these leaders are each making wonderful contributions and advances to foster peace within our society at large. Together, with each of the collaborating organizations, we aim to continue to amplify the voices of student leaders from around the world so that we can all learn from their wealth of knowledge and leadership. We thank you so much for joining us today, and we welcome you to write any questions you may have for our panelists within the chat box, which will be addressed and answered toward the latter part of this event. Thank you.
Research can make an important contribution to peace by identifying factors that contribute to conflict, violence, healing, and peace. Research also can explore interventions that support conflict resolution and build or sustain psychological components of peace. Today, we have two student researchers looking at peace in different contexts and from different perspectives. Sierra Abelera is a fourth-year doctoral student interested in how intergroup conflict shapes belonging processes among majority and minority group members, with a particular focus on host society member and migrant relations. As a member of the Intergroup Relations and Social Justice Lab, led by Dr. Linda R. Trope, Sierra has worked with nonprofit organizations, university centers, and international collaborators to examine how context shapes feelings of belonging and perceptions of inclusion. Most recently, Sierra received the 2022 Applied Social Issues Internship Award from the Society for the Psychological Study of Social Issues. Welcome, Sierra.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. And for everyone else who's organized this event, I am so honored to be here. I am a fourth-year doctoral student, and I originally grew up in Hawaii, and I never saw myself doing this type of research or doing research in conflict settings. So I'm really excited to be here with the other panelists and to share some of what we do in the lab. So in the chat, I just shared sort of a link to our research lab, which is the Intergroup Relations and Social Justice Lab. And here we focus on identities and group memberships. And specifically, we look at relations between people who have different statuses in society and the relations and inequities that happen when we get together in group dynamics. And so one of the projects that I am hoping to share today is in collaboration with an organization called the Hello Neighbor Network. And it is a national collaborative organization that focuses on refugee or newcomer resettlement here in the US. And what they do is connect different organizations with each other to create community, but also really creating resources and opportunities to focus on newcomer resources and incorporation. And so one of the things that we are interested in with this project and what our main goal is to understand newcomers' perceptions of intergroup relations with host society members, but also how they understand social justice issues in the US. And what we hope to do is to develop educational modules that may help with navigating some of these race relations and other relations that newcomers are expected to know when they arrive to the US, but not necessarily given resources or opportunities to talk with host members in spaces about this. And so what we've done is a national survey that is still ongoing. If anyone is interested in connecting us with people who are newcomers and might want to take this survey. And we also have a team that focuses on the qualitative aspect. So we're really trying to get a holistic picture of what newcomers' experiences are with race relations in the US and how we might find places to either bridge gaps in the types of experiences that they're having and experiences that they want, but also in the resources that are available to them.
Bueno, muchas gracias, Sierra, por esta presentación. Esperamos que pues, esta investigación te arroje resultados muy importantes para nuestra profesión. Damos paso entonces a Trisha. Me disculpo si no pronuncio muy bien sus nombres. De antemano me disculpo. Trisha Derner is a National Science Foundation graduate research fellow at the University of Massachusetts, Amsterdam. She received her MSc in social psychology in 2022, and she is currently a doctoral student in UMAS's Psychology of Peace and Violence programs. Her research examines how people's social identity impact their experience interacting with members of other groups and how to improve this exchange while advancing social justice goals. Trisha has consulted with several organizations of improving relations across group debate, and she has evaluated intervention to bridge group difference in United States, Rwanda, and Bosnia and Herzegovina. Le damos la bienvenida entonces a Trisha.
Hi, everyone. As mentioned, I'm a student at the University of Massachusetts Psychology, Peace and Violence, and I'm actually lab mates with Sierra. I'm going to be providing a very brief overview of a project that was conducted between 2016 and 2018 in Rwanda, nearly 25 years after the 1994 Rwandan genocide. This project was designed and implemented in collaboration with one US-based peacebuilding organization and 3 locally based Rwanda peacebuilding organizations. I did the project after the programs were actually run to assist in these 4 nonprofits in the evaluation of their projects. So just to provide a little bit of background, we know from past research that enhancing prospects for social integration after genocide is important because greater social integration can curb future outbreaks of violence and reduce the severity of post-traumatic stress syndromes associated with this past violence. However, we know less about what facilitates greater social integration, especially after genocide has taken place, and whether this might be the same or different depending on your role in the conflict as either a survivor, perpetrator, or bystander. We know that being open to sharing one's own conflict experience has a number of positive benefits, from decreasing feelings of social isolation, increasing feelings of being understood, which is the basis for trust, and increasing the belief that outgroup members are motivated to achieve peace rather than other strategic goals. So we wanted to test in these series of studies whether openness to communicating experiences after genocide might be beneficial for social integration, and whether this may differ perhaps by the role that conflict role, or the role or identities that you had in relation to that conflict. To do this, we conducted 2 studies. Study 1 used a large community survey of survivors, perpetrators, and bystanders of the genocide. And study 2 included pre-post assessments of dialogue-based interventions that ran over the course of 1 to 2 years. Some were 1 year and some were 2 years after the post-evaluation took place. The districts where the studies were conducted are highlighted here in red on the image on the top right corner of the screen. Each of the highlighted districts received 2 interventions. So across both the community survey and dialogue program participants, we found that greater openness to communicating conflict experiences was positively associated with greater willingness to socially integrate. And this was true among all groups: survivors, perpetrators, and bystanders. And then if we go to the next slide and we look only at time 1 before the start of the structured dialogue interventions, we do see that survivors tend to enter these programs understandably less open to communicate and less willing to socially integrate compared to what is referred here in green as non-survivors, so perpetrators and bystanders. However, if we look at the purple lines, we see that survivors reported significantly greater openness to communicating and greater willingness to socially integrate following participation in the 1 to 2 year interventions. Whereas non-survivors shown in the green lines didn't change significantly in their openness to communicating, given that they were already at ceiling at the start of the programs. And their increase for social integration after the intervention was much more modest relative to survivors. So overall, these results sort of show that the challenges associated with social integration after genocide may be partially overcome by growing more open to communicating about one's conflict experiences. And this is just a quick overview of this project. So for those who are interested in the details, I'm happy to share the paper, which is currently in Press, Peace and Conflict, Journal of Peace Psychology. My contact information will be listed in the slide after the presentations are complete. Thank you for listening.
Pedro, are you able to introduce our next speaker in our next section?
Yeah, sorry, because I thought there was another in between. My apologies. Sorry, so now I would like to introduce Trisha, right? I'm on this.
Oh, for Melinda.
I don't have. So is Melinda the one following?
Would you like me to do it?
Yeah, if you can, because
Sure,
I think
sure,
that I downloaded the wrong document. Sorry.
Yeah, sure. Sorry about that. Yeah, so now we're going to move forward to our next set of presentations, which are focused on peace building activities. And for this, we are going to be hearing from Quizera Rulinda and Gabriel Medianero. And we're going to hear a little bit about Quizera Rulinda. Quizera Rulinda is a final year clinical psychology student from the University of Rwanda, board chair of mental health journal Rwanda, and he also serves as community healing officer at Gerg Aheza Healing Center. He is a member of APA Division 48, Association of Child and Adolescent Mental Health, International Psychology Council, and Global Student Psychology Committee, and an alumni of Millennium Fellowships for UN Academic Impact. He's a research enthusiast and has contributed in several activities as a mental health advocate, such as a responder to Helpline during commemoration of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda, to provide support trauma-related issue at country contexts, and also a significant contribution to post-genocide peace building projects. Rulinda, we're so happy to have you here. Thanks for sharing.
Oh, hello everyone. I'm so excited to be part of this panel, and thank you so much, Stephanie, for organizing this this event. So, as she said, Quizera Rulinda from Rwanda. So, she narrated about GIG is a genocide graduate student survivor association. I think Trisha is nodding head. She might be familiar with it because she worked on Rwanda's related history. So I'm glad to hear from her. So I have been, as my experience working with survivor community. So myself, I'm a survivor born after the 1994 genocide against Tutsi. So I need to clarify, it is not Rwanda genocide. It is 1994 genocide against Tutsi. So regarding to that, my work as a peace builder and mental health advocate started when I enrolled in the university. So it was in Rwanda we have a student association of genocide survivor. I mean, where during 1994, where those young survivors who didn't have families, who didn't have where to go when they enrolled in the university. So they found out what to do to get true support. That's where they started to creating this association to help them to feel sense of belonging, help in the adaptation, the university community, getting social support, as I said, economic support, and getting an advocate that they need in the real life of academics, because they didn't have families, some of they didn't have, like they lacked, I mean, if I may say, everything. So those were the vulnerable population we had, there were. So after graduating, they see none other than also creating another graduate association to serve the community out of students. I mean, the community within survival, those who schooled and unschooled. So, and through joining the association of students, I managed to become if I may say, the total number that ILG serve is around 40,000 students across the country context of student who is from high school and the university. So, and GIG serves around, GIG is the Graduate Student Survivor Association, serves around 36,000 of genocide survivor community. So, as I have been volunteering with both of organization, in GIG I was I'm just currently community healing of, I mean, commission of production, trying to provide social support by creating some project, entrepreneurship skills, but also in GIG I'm the community healing officer, who I deal with the integrating community within integrating mental health service within the community of survivors. So from my experience volunteering with GRJ, it's been 8 months since I have started my volunteering experience or my volunteering work. So in the first experience I got was during April, starting during the genocide happened in, started from 6 April, and it occurred in around 3 months. So it took around 8,000, over 8,000 people across the country coast, which were part of the Tutsi clan. So the genocide were done by leaders, if I may clarify. So as I was responding to the helpline, I have figured out several challenges. Like it is, if I may say, helpline is a toll-free number that people with trauma experience, people with any kind of support in survival community, just they have to call for seeking the help. Can be social, can be psychological, can be justice, can be anything. So through as I have observed for those months, I was trying to pick several calls of those survivors. I just noticed that even the denial denial is a barrier toward peace building within country context. So again, that I saw the number of perpetrators some work because they need to deny the genocide against Tutsi as showing them they are just because they are good and related to history. So, and also cultivating that hate speech within their children, starting from areas. So we saw it as a barrier within building a Rwanda we want, Rwanda with peaceful, Rwanda as a peaceful country. So starting with my fellows who were studying psychology, we saw what to do as Rwandans, because if you are dealing with healing, so if there is no peace within the society, healing will be a barrier, because you are trying to join two people as one to ask forgiveness and be forgiven, and someone doesn't need to really ask for forgiveness as perpetrator, and there is need for forgiveness. I mean, there is in healing, if someone is forgiven and there is peace is created. So, and we saw that there is relevance of peace, relevance of psychology in peace building, where we started organizing some meetings with descendants, descendants of genocide survivor and descendants of perpetrators, even the bystanders. So we tried to make some dialogues regarding to peace building. The first we made was a seminar within university student, where we had panel where several students contributed to it, and it was an open discussion. The ideas were many, but indeed there were a need to connect parents and with their children, youth and parents. So if I may say that, so as to address this issue in collective, in inter and intra family. So as the recommendation from the seminar indicated there is a need and willing of youth to the willing of youth to contribute toward peace building. So that's where I started thinking of how can we go with it. So we thought of this, implementing the intergenerational dialogue champion as the project to help in bringing community together, discussing about the topic, and and requesting governmental contribution toward peace building. So far, we tried that as the stepping stone toward addressing the issue, but we're still mobilizing some funding to go ahead with this. So yeah, I think you can see there's several objectives as highlighted regarding to the IDC or intergeneration dialogue champion project, which will be working as sharing experience, bringing about social emotional training skills to help those who are suffering with some hate speech they were given by their parents, to be combated with it and also help in healing. So that's a bit of what I can say about the IDC project. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Quisera, for sharing this important knowledge and education, and for also sharing about the moving work that you're engaged in. It's wonderful to learn from you. At this point, we'd like to introduce our next speaker as well, who will continue more on this topic. Gabriel El Medianero Arauz is a Panamanian psychology student pursuing his degree in psychology at the Universidad de Panama. Throughout his studies in psychology, Gabriel has obtained experience in substance use and addictions, particularly through his training in prevention and intervention programs and his clinical rotation at the National Mental Health Institute in Panama. His areas of clinical and research interest include health psychology and its relation to environmental and social factors. He has occupied different leadership positions at a national and international level, including being vice president of the Student Psychological Association of the Universidad de Panama, student representative at the Psychology Faculty Council, member of the Students' Work Group of the Inter-American Psychological Society, and student representative of his home country at the Global Student Psychology Committee. Gabriel uses these leadership platforms to empower and support other trainees in his home country to get involved in psychological research and to contribute to the scholarly literature of their region. His work has also been recognized by the national and international organizations, including the Secretaría Nacional de Ciencias, Tecnología e Innovación, Ministerio de Educación en Panamá, and the American Psychological Association, or APA. He is currently an ambassador of the Journal of Science Policy and Governance, ambassador for Latin America of the Division 15 Students and Early Career Psychologists of the International Association of Applied Psychology, and co-chair of the Special Interest Group of Gender, Sexuality, and Aging of the Division 20 of the APA, Adult Development and Aging. Gabriel, we look forward to hearing from you.
Thanks for the introduction, and thanks for inviting me to be part of this panel to celebrate peace today. Next, please. Okay, I'm gonna try to come from Spanish to English. Today I'm gonna be talking about international student spaces, learning to build peace from the intercultural exchange. Bueno, primero agradecer por la invitación y por ser parte de este panel. Y hoy les voy a estar hablando de espacios estudiantiles internacionales, aprendiendo a construir la paz desde el intercambio cultural. Next, please. Okay, I'm going to be coming from these two main ideas, that peace must be built upon the intellectual and moral solidarity of humanity, which is fostered to dialogue and mutual understanding, that is by UNESCO. And cultural exchange is defined as activities that enhance mutual understanding and foster the appreciation of mutual identities. Bueno, voy a estar partiendo de estas dos ideas, que la paz es la construcción, la paz es de construir sobre la solidaridad intelectual y la moral de la humanidad, que se fomenta a través del diálogo y la comprensión mutua, y que el intercambio cultural se define como las actividades que mejoran el entendimiento mutuo y fomentan la apreciación de las identidades mutuas. Esta última por Kazu. Next, please. Okay, at the GSPC, we basically foster dialogue at the exchange of experience and knowledge and ideas between students around the world. It's important to highlight that this is done basically from the moment members become a part of the GSPC, as it is sent to them the statement of inclusivity that states that the GSPC seeks to be inclusive and respectful of all identities of students' identities, such as culture, nationality, language, age, gender identity, race, ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, disabilities, and social economic status. So basically, from the beginning, from the moment a student becomes a member of the GSPC, we are trying to foster dialogue and the exchange of their experiences. It is important also to say that this could be done in an formal way or an informal way. A formal way will be done like this one. We open a Zoom and we talk about a certain topic, and we begin to talk about this topic. But also, this space has allowed students to create friendships, create relationships between them, so they can also have a conversation, an informal conversation, and talk about life, talk about their own experience in their academic careers and universities. So basically, this makes it a space of cultural exchange and learning, not only for like academic topics, but also coming from this part of own experience, own life experience. Bueno, ¿qué hacemos en el GSPC? Básicamente venimos desde el inicio, desde cuando un miembro se hace parte del GSPC, se le envía lo que es la declaración de inclusividad, que establece que el GSPC busca fomentar la inclusividad y el respeto de todos los de todas las identidades de los estudiantes, como la cultura, la nacionalidad, el lenguaje, la edad, la identidad de género, la raza, etnia, religión, orientación sexual, discapacidades y estatus socioeconómico. Esto permite que se pueda promover desde un inicio, desde el momento en el que un estudiante se hace miembro, el diálogo e intercambio de ideas y conocimientos entre los diferentes estudiantes. Por ende, entonces se crea un espacio de intercambio cultural y aprendizaje, desde una parte formal, como lo puede ser abrir un Zoom y pues hablar de un tema en particular, como también podría serlo una conversación que se puede tener entre miembros y de forma informal, para hablar de la vida, para hablar de las experiencias que han tenido en sus carreras académicas y profesionales. Entonces, vemos que se puede hacer tanto de una forma formal como de una forma informal, y que ambas cosas lo que hacen es que permiten un intercambio y un aprendizaje de lo que es el espacio cultural en el GSPC. Next, please. Okay, so now I'm gonna finish with this idea, and is that education for the construction of peace means that the human being must work or must try to be a global citizen. It's for this that education must means and brings or maybe be part of all the levels of and modalities of sorry. It's for, okay, vamos en español primero. Básicamente voy a terminar con esta idea, que educar para la construcción de la cultura de paz implica educar al ser humano para que ejerza la ciudadanía mundial. Es por ello que esta educación debe implicar y acoger todos los niveles y modalidades educativas, partiendo de la experiencia de la vida cotidiana. I'm not gonna translate it as it's I'm gonna try to interpret it. Basically, the education for the building of peace, for education for peace, it must be part of all education levels, not only like a primary level, but all parts of level, all levels of the educational system and all modalities. Coming from the basic experience of day-to-day life. And this is part of what I was telling you that we do at the GSPC. We basically also, as we are most of us students, we are students from different levels, degree students, master students, doctoral students. There we can do this exchange of culture, this exchange of ideas, experience, and dialogue. But also we comes from the day-to-day life. We also talk about what we do in a daily basis, and this helps to educate for peace. This helps the construction of peace from the education. En cada persona, como en la sociedad, se encuentran patrones de respeto por el otro, de tolerancia, de manejo de la agresión, de la ira, el odio, el desarrollo de la creatividad en la búsqueda de las soluciones, la capacidad de perdonar y reconciliarse, que determinan igualmente patrones de afrontamiento de los conflictos. And basically, well, now again, I'm going to try to interpret, not translate as it is. But what this means is that in each person, as in society, there's a way to interpret tolerance, what tolerance means, what anger management means, what hate means, and what respect for each other means. And I think that this is very important, because sometimes we think that because we understand, or in our country, we get that, oh, this is the way here we respect each other. This is the way here we relate to each other. This is the same way in the whole world. It's the same way in other regions of the world, and that's not true. Each person interprets respect to each other. Each society interprets respect to each other in a certain way, and by talking to each other, by actually having a dialogue, by speaking to each other, we could understand, and we could try to get how other people understand what respect means, what tolerance means, what hate means. So this allows us to develop the search for solutions, for creative solutions, and the capacity to forgive and reconciliate with each other. Basically, having actually the knowledge of what others understand and how others relate to each other, make us them try to find a solution, a creative solution, and also try to build a peace.
Thank you very much, Gabriel, for the amazing work that you do, and for sharing the experiences about activities for fostering dialogue among the Global Psychology Student Committee. First of all, let me shortly introduce myself. My name is Maria, and I represent the International Association of Applied Psychology. Thank you, Stephanie, and all the organizers for inviting me to be part of this event. I am actually a WOP psychologist, but today I'm representing the IAP, as I'm the current president of Division 15 for early career psychologists and students of the International Association of Applied Psychology. So let's move forward to the peace education part of this event. To tackle an issue, first you need to raise awareness about it. Peace education is crucial in raising awareness about various concepts related to peace. In particular, peace psychology plays a vital role in disseminating knowledge about conflict resolution, and the psychology behind it. It is a great honor to share with you today the stories of peace activists who implement various peace educational activities, from podcasts to workshops. We invite them to share their experiences. We start off with Whitney Skippings. Whitney is a Temple University Counseling Psychology MD student. She completed undergrad in philosophy and international studies at Spelman College and a previous master's degree from Georgetown in international security studies. Whitney's research interests are at the intersection of conflict and psychology, and she would like to work on advocacy and therapeutic interventions for Afro-Caribbean immigrant and refugee populations. Thank you, Whitney. The floor is yours.
Hello, and thank you for that great introduction, Maria. So as you can tell, this project has stemmed specifically from my background in foreign affairs, where I focus specifically on issues related to civilian harm mitigation, international media, rule of law, and international migration issues. And so most recently, I pivoted professionally to counseling psychology, focusing, as you heard, on immigrant and refugee populations. And this pivot is kind of allowing me to unite my previous professional and academic experience with the ability to have direct impact with populations that need it most. And so the major part of this project, which is funded by a grant from Division 40, yes, the podcast, will have 6 40-minute episodes, each focusing on a different facet of peace psychology. And then there will also be supplementary materials. And the idea, you can read some of this here, but the idea is to sort of enhance access to peace psychology and really make peace psychology relevant for counselors and therapists as well. And so the questions that I'm really aiming to answer in this project, I'll list a few of them. One, how can counselors and therapists apply trauma and culturally informed interventions with those fleeing conflict? 2, how can we create low-cost tools to inform therapists and counselors and to learn more about peace psychology and how it is relevant to the counseling field? How can counselors be better equipped to address the issues of survivors and perpetrators of both domestic American conflict and international conflict? And how can counselors better address the intergenerational trauma associated with conflict? And I do believe that there was someone earlier who talked about intergenerational trauma and kind of addressing that. So that question also comes up for me too. And then historically, how have mental health practitioners contributed to the post-conflict reconstruction space? And so that particular question is something that I'd really like to focus on more. When we think about major conflicts around the world, and not just internationally, but also domestically in the US where I am based, how have counselors really been able to be helpful in that particular space? And so what is the podcast? You kind of can see a lot of that here, some of the details of it. And then I also have at the bottom a bit of a call to action. And so if you know of people who would be interesting interviewees, let me know. I am specifically looking for people who have experience around the world, people who have experience studying different types of conflict, people who are both researchers, scholars and practitioners. I think that this podcast really wants to get at the heart of the intersection of research and practitioners, because a lot of what I've experienced in my particular program, which does not have a peace psychology focus at all, is that we're very sort of domestically focused when the impact of therapists and counselors, psychotherapists, and the mental health field at large is just so much larger and global. So thank you very much for letting me talk about this. If people have questions, by all means at the end, let me know. But if you are interested in being interviewed or being a part of this, or you have a facet of peace psychology that you think would be really impactful to have as part of this, I'll leave my contact information in the chat below for folks. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Whitney, por compartirnos esta valiosísima herramienta. Y bueno, damos paso entonces a Deksha Beli y Maxine Habegula. Siento mucho si no pronuncio bien sus nombres. Are school psychology doctoral students of the University of Maryland, College Park under the mentorship of Dr. Sibin Wong. Both are Indian and share a passion for increasing family well-being international. Ms. Nin was born and raised in India and used to practice as a psychologist with children and families in India before she moved to the United States. In India, in addition to proving therapy and working with diverse populations, she conducts several psychoeducation workshops for parents to spread awarenesses about mental health uses. In the United States, she has worked extensively with Asian American and immigrant families, providing workshops on emotion coaching, parenting, and more. She has also trained Asian American parents in improving your mental health first aid. Finally, Ms. Nin has conducted and published research on parents, parent-child relationship, and mental health across the globe. DECSA work has been improving and evaluation culturally responsive mental health programming for the rise youth and young adults in high stress setting, which she has been doing in 12 years. Throughout this work, DECSA has developed skill and interest in increasing access to mental health support and preventing mental health uses in children and families across the globe. Currently, she is actively working to increase access to mental health services and reduce mental health risk factors in lower income communities. She also recently worked with an initiative proving psychological first aid counseling team to Indian frontline worker during COVID-19, which aspect her interest in improving peace within the family projects. As an immigrant having lived in multiple countries, DECSA feels connections to family and youth internationally and wants to do whatever she can to support them. Bienvenidas, DECSA and witnesses.
Hi, everybody. So happy to be here today with everyone. So we're here to talk about the project that we did. We received we're still doing it. We received a small grant from Division 48, just like Whitney. Hi, Whitney. We were really grateful to receive it. And so what we did was we provided parenting workshops for families in India coming out of COVID-19. And so the next slide sort of talks a little bit about what we did. We really wanted to help. I'm sure a lot of you know, India was really hard hit by COVID-19 right at the peak of it. So we really wanted to help reduce stress and reduce conflict, because reports were coming out that conflict within the family was increasing. And we really wanted to do whatever we could to help. So what we did was we hosted a 3-series workshop for 5 cohorts of parents between January 2021 and July 2022. So we started a little after COVID, but parents were still feeling stress. And Mazneen can talk more about some of the work she did with parents during COVID, surveying them and figuring out their levels of stress. So the topics that we covered, we did 3 workshops. The first workshop, we covered stress management and general well-being, starting with the parents, but also extending to the children, because if parents are stressed, can they really support their children? Can they really support their partners or whoever's in their house? So we started with stress management for the parents, also applied that to kids in the first workshop. The second workshop, we got into conflict management and effective communication and relationships with other people in the family and then with the kids. And then finally, in the last workshop, we focused in on child behavior support and building resilience. So very specific strategies for how parents could support kids in a positive way without resorting to physical punishment if they got really mad. How can we deal with conflict effectively and help kids effectively? Mazneen, please go ahead and add and change and whatever. Jump in.
Yeah, thank you, Diksha. I think that was a very good overview. So as Diksha was saying, before we did this study, I was part of a larger study which was being conducted all over the world on how COVID has been impacting children and families around the world. And we also got this sample from India, and we haven't conducted any very detailed analysis, but just looking at some very preliminary analysis, we found that parents were reporting very high levels of stress, engaging in parenting behaviors more yelling, those kind of things. So we kind of saw a correlation we ran some basic correlations, and we found that stress was related to some of these parenting behaviors, which in turn was kind of also correlated with child mental health. So I was talking about this with Diksha, and in the introduction you heard, Diksha was also primarily working a lot with frontline workers in India, providing therapy. So we were hearing a lot of these themes coming up, and that's what kind of motivated us to do a project like this. for parents, so that the overall aim was to promote peace and harmony in the family, and build positive parent-child relationships, positive family relationships. So like Diksha said, we have conducted a bunch of workshops between like January of this year to now. We are beginning to now analyze the data. We've just again been looking. We had some open-ended questions in there as well, and we found some really interesting feedback. And also it seems like the workshops were very well received. Parents seem to like many of the strategies. And many of them even wrote that, this has changed the way in which I look at my children, the way in which I interact with my children. So that was something very positive to hear from these parents. So in terms of next steps, of course, we'll be formally looking at the data much more closely and analyzing it. We also plan to conduct some focus groups. So Diksha and I were talking, and we realized that, it's been a while since we did this. So it may be nice to kind of also check in a way to see if they are still using these strategies, and also learn more about what challenges they may have experienced with the material that we taught. We give out the information and all the resources, but were they actually able to apply them? And if so, great. If not, what were some challenges that came up?
That, and also how well do the strategies apply? Because here we are spouting knowledge and wisdom and evidence-based practice, but when the rubber meets the road on their ends, what did work for them? What didn't work for them? What questions do they still have? What didn't we cover that they really wanted to know about? We received some feedback that we'll incorporate into the next round around conflicts with in-laws. There's cultural connotations to how the amount of respect you're supposed to show your in-laws, and sometimes people get walked all over, and we didn't talk about that at all in our workshop. So what are we missing too?
Right.
Go ahead. Just wanted to add that.
Thank you for adding that. So we hope to do that maybe in the next month or so. And another big part of this project, the grant we received, we are hoping to use some funds to create more pamphlets or brochures or materials or resources that we could distribute or disseminate widely. So of course, the parents who attended our workshops, we shared our slides and a bunch of other resources that were, we thought would be helpful and relevant for them, but we would want to reach a much wider audience. So in terms of next steps, we are hoping to come up with these pamphlets and brochures where we talk about all these different strategies with simple, easy language, bullet points, and have nice pictures and visuals that would help them kind of relate to that material. So that's something that we hope to again work on in the next couple of months and disseminate widely, try to reach as many people as possible.
And also working with community partners to help develop what the most relevant material would be. Because this is for folks who couldn't attend our workshops. Maybe they didn't have internet, maybe they didn't have time. So their needs might be different than those who did attend the workshop. So trying to keep an eye on that too. So if you want to use our pamphlets for anything, if you want to use our materials, let us know. We'll be happy to share whatever we created.
Yeah, I think that was it from our side. Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much, Diksha and Masnin, for your fabulous presentation, and also for the work that you are developing, because something that I think that it's very impressive about your work is that you noticed a need, an actual need, and you have tried to solve it through applied psychology, something that sometimes is not that easy found, right? In the academic context, is we think about something that it would be interesting, yeah, but can it be applied? Can it be? Well, sometimes it's never applied, but in your case, it's the other way around, right? It's you are in the very field of action. So congratulations about that, and we really hope that your project is going to. We hope and we are sure that it's going to help many families, and for them it's going to be a difference. And let's hope that it's just the beginning of something so much bigger. So thank you very much for your work and for the example. Now, according to the schedule, is time for the Q&A part of the webinar. So we've seen so many different fabulous presentations. So if you have any questions, taking advantage that our presenters are here with us, if any doubt, anything that you may want to ask them, please, now is the moment. You just can't talk, you can write it in the chat, wherever is you find it better.
One question that I've been thinking about a lot as I've listened to all of the presentations is just how diverse and how different the projects are. And I kind of came into peace psychology by accident, and I'm just interested to hear from other people, like, how did you get into peace psychology or peace work? Like, was it something where you're like, I'm going to be a peace psychologist, or was it more like you just happened into it?
I can take that particular question. So for me, it wasn't necessarily that I've gone into this saying I want to be a peace psychologist. It's that I had an idea of what I wanted and then was like, wait, there's a name for this, right? And there are other people who have done this, and there are other people who have kind of built frameworks that I can kind of glom onto a little bit. And so that's what it was for me. I had research interests and professional interests, and was like, you know, what would I like professionally to have been known for? Like, what would I have wanted my impact to be? Saw who was doing it, and I was like, oh wait, that is exactly what that is, and that name fits.
Does anyone want to also, because I have another question, but before moving to my question, if any one of you also want to answer to Stephanie one?
Well, I think that I didn't know that this was considered doing peace, until you explained it to me. Like, well, this could be considered peace because it's this and this, and then I start reading what peace building is and what peace education is, and I understood, like, okay, like the part of peace building that comes from education could be considered this that we are doing, actually talking about stuffs, daily stuffs, or our experiences, getting to know each other, getting to understand our backgrounds, getting to understand how we understand things, how we understand what is, for example, insecurity, what is, for example, like how do we have to deal with different stuff in a daily basis. So that that is peace. That, to understand that, at a certain point comes that, okay, then I understand the behavior that you are doing, and I understand why it is, where it comes from. So I started getting it, but I didn't know. It happens to me also that I didn't know that this has a name. I thought that it was socialization, that maybe we were just, you know, talking. But I get now that actually it could be taken as peace building, education for peace building.
Just to jump in, I had a very similar experience to both Gabriel and Whitney. I remember talking to my advisor and saying, am I a social psychologist? Am I a political psychologist? Am I a peace psychologist? I don't know what I am. And she's like, all of the above. And so I think it's nice to be able to pull from different fields when you're trying to work on complex social problems.
So thank you for your answers to Stephanie's question. And I would like, seeing that there are so far no other question in the chat, there's something I want to ask any of you of the panelists today, because, for example, in my case, I come from a clinical background, and I know that there are no universal truths in my field. What I mean is that maybe a treatment or maybe an approach that can be useful or can be good for a Spanish person may not be the same for someone from Madagascar or for Australia, for cultural or social differences, right? And that's normal. That's something that we have to take into consideration. But when we are talking about peace and peace promotion and the different projects that we've seen here, in your opinion, do you think that it would be the same? It's something that we should find for particular answers, or should we aim to universal goals, for universal ways of promoting and addressing peace?
I don't mind. I'm sorry, I don't want to like monopolize. So if someone else wants to take it first, I'm fine going second. But for me, as someone who kind of my preceding career was all about conflict and different types of conflict and sort of the differences between civil and politicized ethnic conflict and all of that minutia, I think for me, I learned that solutions have to be very specific to the situation, not just because of culture, but because of the ways in which different types of conflicts manifest, right? And so like, I think we've talked a lot about the Rwandan genocide against the Tutsis, right? And that is a very specific situation. But even though there's overlap with situations perhaps in Bosnia or in other places around the world, like I would never dream that the solution in Rwanda for, like, I don't know, like the specific situation in Rwanda would be something that would also work in Bosnia. That said, I think it's really interesting in a lot of the work that we do to find the overlap, right? Because again, like we don't always have to reinvent the wheel. And so perhaps the Gacaca court model of Rwanda is something about that sort of localized justice and healing can be helpful in Bosnia. I think that's like for us to uncover, and that's kind of the fun of the field, is to find find where the Venn diagram overlaps and when the Venn diagram doesn't.
For me, I think like when I think about peace and peace education and just harmony, I think that like some basic preventive strategies might be similar across cultures. Like, how do we develop empathy? How do we develop compassion? How do we promote that in people? How do we promote perspective taking? I think a lot of that can be similar. But then when I think maybe I somewhat agree with Whitney about, the cure might look different in different contexts. I think the prevention probably looks a lot more similar than, than maybe people think.
Thank you very much, both of you, for your answers. Are there any other question, or opinion, or point of view? We are open to them also. Here, it's not only about questions.
During the presentations, we heard from two groups that they had received grant funding for their projects. And I think a lot of times people feel limited by finances or by travel or other things. I'd be interested in hearing from people who didn't talk about funding, like are there, aside from that particular grant, which was from AP Division 48, what other ways have people funded their peace work, whether that's research or projects, and what other places have you successfully found ways to support the work that you're doing?
I could share funding that I've gotten So I'm just going to put in the chat the organization link, and the organization that I've received funding for my particular project is a Society for the Psychological Study of Social Issues. And so we focus on intergroup relations. There's also people in this organization that focus on health outcomes, and it's very, very broad. It's also a smaller organization that is really focused on sort of like the applied part of psychology and how to do that in a effective but also mindful way. And I went to their conference recently in the summer, and they seem like they just have such a great connection of scholars doing peace and justice work, also doing beyond that scope. So yeah, definitely recommend going to the conference if you can. It's a really great community. They have lots of different funding opportunities. The one I was awarded was $2,500 for an internship award. And so that money is used to fund participant compensation and translation of surveys. And so they have, yeah, lots of great pockets of community there, and hopefully funding that would be helpful to anyone here.
I'm talking a lot too, so I'm happy to let somebody else speak. I don't want to monopolize either. I'll just add, we were successful getting funding from USAID for the work we were doing, although I wasn't the one who applied for the funding. So it was my advisor, so it might be useful to know.
Thank you all for your answers. I see that Diksha asked in the chat that she would love to hear about prevention across cultures. So if any one of you want to, if we are on time, Stephanie, do we have time for an extra question, or should we move to
let's end with this one. So this sounds
Perfect.
like a great one to end on.
Perfect. So we end with this open question that Diksha has asked. So if any one of you want to reply about prevention across cultures, please, the floor is yours.
My answer for this one is sort of inspired a little bit by, well, by all of the presenters today, actually, but kind of what Gabrielle was talking about in terms of building relationships, building intercultural relationships, and really focusing on getting to know people who are different than you are, and respecting those differences and embracing people as people. And so, I mean, that sounds very like, I mean, I don't know what the right word is, but I mean, it sounds very optimistic, but I feel like that prevention of violence comes from understanding and from, shared humanity. And so that's my thought, but I'd love to hear what other people think too.
Gabriel, porfa, me ayudas con la traducción. Yo creo que una de las formas de prevenir la violencia y el conflicto es empezando por nosotros mismos. Dejar de ser tan violentos con nosotros mismos y empezar a darnos paz, que la paz venga de adentro de nosotros, para después poder entonces quitar esas barreras y esas diferencias que tenemos con los demás.
Okay. Well, Salem is saying that for her, peace must come from us, from us inside, and doing peace from things that we have in the inside, and then with the other ones. I think that Salem, me repites el final, por favor.
Sí, que pues empezar por nosotros mismos para que esas barreras que tenemos con los demás puedan irse borrando. Y
and
entonces
that,
así.
and that those barriers that we have with the other ones could be demolished with the piece that we actually have in the inside.
Thank you very much for sharing your views on that question that was raised in the end. And so now for starting the end of today's webinar, I would like to give the floor to Rita Rivera.
So Rita has not been able to join us, so I will jump in here. Rita was hoping to join us today, but she is unfortunately not able to be here. Her goal was to facilitate a networking experience for those of us who are here. So basically, we're all here because we had some interest in peace, or some interest in psychology, or some interest in international things. So the hope is that we can use this time to build relationships and to promote next year's projects that we might be featuring. So I have a couple of slides here. If anybody is interested in getting involved with any of the organizations that are represented here today, we've got contact information here. We have email addresses for Division 48, Global Student Psychology Committee, IAAP, and SIP. So please reach out if you'd like to get involved, either as an official member or if you're seeking any sort of partnerships. Also, if you're interested in contacting any of the facilitators, me, Sailem, Pedro, Daniel, Rita, or Maria, we've got our contact information here. We're happy to, as representatives of those organizations, we're happy to tell you a little bit more about the benefits of being involved in the organizations and some of the projects that we're doing, how those organizations are structured. Here are the contact information elements for all of our panelists. There were so many wonderful things that were shared today, and I think a lot of us were like, ooh, I want to contact that person. I want to contact that person about the great work you're doing. So we have email addresses here if you'd like to follow up with anybody to learn more about their work or to explore partnerships with any of our panelists today. And then finally, anybody who's here now as an attendee, we would love to hear from you. If you'd like to share your contact information, you can put your email in the chat, or you can put your LinkedIn profile link or Facebook link or whatever you would prefer into the chat. We would love to stay connected after this and see what amazing international peace psychology work we can do. So thank you all for being here. And I would like to, at this time, pass things back to Maria to close things out for today.
Thank you everyone for participating at this event and making it possible in order to celebrate, of course, the International Peace Day. We would like to end actually this event with a couple of wishes for peace in order to celebrate, of course, the International Peace Day. I would like to start by sharing a quote from a very special person, of course, Mother Teresa. She's a great role model for a peace advocate. And one of the quotes that she has said is that not all of us can do great things, but we can do small things with great love. And I think really the greatness comes from all the small actions and things we do in our everyday life. So my wish for peace would be to really accompany everything that we do with kindness, love, and respect. And this is how actually peace is built based on those small steps and small things that we do every day. And I would like to invite you also to share your wishes for peace. If you feel comfortable, you can share that with us in the chat, or if you would like, you can also share with the microphone, of course. So we can just have a really nice wrap up of the event with a lot of wishes for peace. That'd be nice.
I would like to send my thoughts and my wishes to peace, for peace to anyone in the world who's suffering, and also to those who aren't suffering, that in hopes that they can use the joy that they have to help those that are.
So in my case, I would like to send my hopes to peace, also to those who work for it, because usually they are forgotten in that task, either health workers, social supporters, relatives, friends, whoever who are the ones supporting others in peace. So my wishes are for them.
My wishes are for the ones that, well, are actually living in countries that are in peace, that we are actually maybe sometimes don't understand how great that is, how big that is. Sometimes we take it for granted. Actually building peace is something very complicated, and keeping peace is something that is in silence. It's not something that we actually see results in the short time, but we have the privilege to live in countries that actually have peace. So
we also received some messages in the chat from Whitney and from Diksha. You can also read them. I don't know if we have time to go over them out loud or. Yes. Okay, so well, yeah, Whitney's wish is that I'd like to send my wish for peace for those who are working to break the cycles, intergenerational trauma resulting from conflict around the world. The work you're doing matters and will help future generations. And also from Diksha that says that we all love ourselves despite our flaws and differences, and extend the same love towards others and serve them, embracing their differences and sacrificing to help. And we have from Rolinda, as we celebrate International Day of Peace, and sends heartfelt wishes to all, expressing hope, harmony, happiness, and peaceful coexistence everywhere. Thank you all for sharing those wishes. We also have new ones. My wishes are for those impacted by violence, those struggling to find peace, and those trying to create more peace in their community, from Trisha. And we also have from Asnin, I love what everyone has shared. May we all find peace within ourselves and with the people in our lives. Thank you, everyone. So yes, I guess our time is up, and thank you all for sharing your peace wishes with us, and thank you for making this event possible, and hopefully in the future we'll also collaborate even more with future events and future projects and collaborations in order to build a better place and of course a peaceful world. Thank you all for the great work that you're doing.
Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you very much.